So I had free time, which basically means I was procrastinating my life. Then I thought, what if I give my resume to Gemini? Like literally upload my career and ask AI, yo, make something cool out of this. And Gemini be like, bet, hear the podcast about your life. A full-blown audio experience hosted by Gemini, starring me. I didn't even ask for this, but it's kind of fire. So here it is, the podcast Gemini made out of my resume. If nothing else, it's proof that your CV can be more interesting than your dating profile.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Today on the deep dive, we're doing something a bit different. We're taking just one piece of source material this time. It's a resume.
Right.
And we use that as our map, really try and extract the most compelling, the most useful insights from it.
Yeah, it's like a shortcut, isn't it? Not just listing things, but understanding the journey behind them.
Exactly.
So our mission here in this deep dive is to explore the professional profile of Mayor Palmer. Full stack developer. And like you said, we've got the resume, experience, education, skills.
Even some interesting additional info bits towards the end.
Yes.
So what can you, listening in, expect to get from this?
Well, we think it's a real window into a developer's journey, right? How they build their technical toolkit, some specific examples of, the problems they've actually solved.
And what their choices kind of tell us about their growth path, especially over just a few years. It's quite concentrated.
Yeah, it is. And that initial impression, just looking at the summary section at the top, it's strong. It really is. Comes across as a passionate full-stack developer, mentions over 3 years of experience, and they're clearly proficient in a pretty modern stack.
Which is?
You've got React.js, Next.js on the front end, Node.js for the back end, MongoDB. And they explicitly mention focusing on performance and user experience.
And that interesting little hook early on, the mention of exploring things like 3D experiences with 3JS.
That definitely catches the eye. It's not something you see on every developer resume.
No, definitely not. Okay, so that 3JS part is intriguing, maybe hints at some creativity, but let's trace the path through the work experience. Chronologically makes sense, I think.
Agreed. That's where you see the skills actually being applied.
So starting with the current role, full stack developer at Full-Blown VR. Been there since May 2023.
And what's insightful here, I think, is the range of projects just within this one company. It shows different sides of that full stack role.
Right. First up, the main Full-Blown VR website itself.
Yeah, designing and developing a fully dynamic, multi-language and multi-domain web platform. That's quite a bit to handle.
Multi-language and multi-domain, yeah.
Yeah.
And using Next.js with a custom backend.
Yeah.
That suggests a real focus on performance, maybe scalability too.
Absolutely. Especially with server-side rendering mentioned, that's often key for things like SEO, getting found on Google, and initial load times.
Okay, but here's the bit that for me really jumps out from a practical business user angle. They build a custom CMS, a content management system.
Right.
Specifically designed so that non-technical users can easily create, update, manage content without needing any coding knowledge.
Which is huge.
Isn't it? Giving that control to the content owners, plus things like dynamic page creation, real-time updates, that's empowering the business side directly.
Exactly. That ability to empower non-technical stakeholders. It shows a developer who gets the bigger picture, the business impact of the tech. It's not just code. And beyond just the content side, they also developed a secure authentication system. Multiple user roles mentioned admin, site admin with fine-grained permissions.
So thinking about who can see what, who can change what, proper security and access control, that's important for any serious application.
Definitely. And the tech stack listed for this project, it confirms that core set we saw earlier. Next.js, React.js, Node.js, Express.js, and MongoDB. Consistent.
Okay, so that's the main public website. Then, still at Photon VR, there's another big project listed, a task management module. Looks like an internal tool.
Yeah, and here the focus seems to shift a bit. It mentions leading front-end development with a strong emphasis on enhancing the user experience, the UI.
Leading the front end, okay.
And it highlights collaboration, too. Working closely with back-end developers, integrating the front-end stuff smoothly with RESTful APIs.
Which are just the standard way different software bits talk over the internet, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. The plumbing.
And it says they designed and implemented an intuitive responsive UI using React.js. Focus on accessibility, ease of use.
And mentions specific user-friendly features, task categorization, priority tracking, things that actually help people get work done. It even claims it led to increased productivity.
which is the goal of an internal tool, right?
Yeah.
Making work easier or faster shows they're thinking about the user of the tool.
And technically, it mentions using modern React patterns hooks, context API for state management.
Which is how the app keeps track of data and shares it efficiently.
Exactly. It shows they're using up-to-date techniques for building maintainable and performant front-end code. Good signs.
Okay, and then we get this third point under photo and VR, just titled 3D Journey.
Yeah. Now, this feels different, doesn't it?
It really does. It says, embarking on a journey into the 3D realm with Three.js, creating interactive, visually striking virtual environment.
This points to something beyond just the standard, CRU operations, create, read, update, delete, the typical database interactions.
Right. It suggests maybe a creative streak, an experimental side, wanting to work with different kinds of web content, not just forms and data tables.
I think so. Exploring Three.js for interactive 3D. It's definitely a sign of pushing boundaries, maybe a personal passion, finding its way into their work.
Okay, so that's the current role. To really understand how they got there, maybe we should rewind just a bit to the previous job.
Good idea. The foundation. That was junior developer at Squad Technologies PVT Ltd, February 2022 to April 2023.
And the main focus listed here seems to be API integrations.
And what's useful here is they get specific, successfully integrating HubSpot APIs.
HubSpot. Big name in CRM, customer relationship management.
Exactly. So enhancing CRM functions, streamlining business processes. It mentions implementing data synchronization between HubSpot and other systems.
Making different software talk to each other reliably, keeping data consistent. That's like bread and butter for so many businesses.
Absolutely crucial. And it also mentions troubleshooting, resolving API issues promptly, minimizing disruption.
And working specifically with HubSpot and Xero, another big size platform for accounting.
Right. So practical experience with real-world third-party systems, handling errors, syncing data. You learn a lot doing that.
These seem like really solid foundational skills. You see how that experience would feed directly into building more complex things later, like their own custom backends or that CMS.
Totally agree. That junior role, mastering those third-party integrations, it's often a starting point, but it builds essential problem-solving muscles for dealing with external dependencies, things you don't control.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, shifting gears slightly, let's look at the education listed. Provides that academic underpinning.
Yep. Bachelor of Computer Engineering, finished May 2022 from Gujarat Power Engineering Research Institute. Got a CGPA of 7.53 out of 10. Solid.
And before that, a diploma in computer engineering from KD Polytechnique. Finished July 2019, and the CGPA there was even higher, 8.4 out of 10.
So it shows that structured educational path, which clearly aligns with the practical experience we've just been talking about. Theory and practice coming together.
Right, so let's pull back now and look at the overall tech stack. The arsenal of technologies Mayer explicitly lists.
Yep.
Front end first.
Okay. React.js, Next.js, TypeScript, Tailwind CSS, Three.js, Bootstrap CSS.
That's a pretty modern and comprehensive list for front end. You've got the core frameworks, strong typing with TypeScript, efficient styling with Tailwind.
And then the specialized stuff like Three.js for 3D and maybe Bootstrap for quicker layout stuff sometimes covers a lot of bases.
Okay, back end.
Node.js, Express.js, MongoDB, MySQL, MS SQL.
So comfort with both NoSQL, that's MongoDB, and traditional relational SQL databases like MySQL and MS SQL.
Yeah, versatile. Plus the Node.js runtime and Express framework, which we saw powering those custody backends in the project descriptions.
And then tools and APIs.
HubSpot API, Xero, which we saw in the Squad Tech role, then Git, REST APIs, Postman.
Standard essential toolkit there. Version control with Git, testing APIs with Postman, and that hands-on experience with specific business APIs like HubSpot and Xero.
Definitely. And languages listed are English, Hindi, and Gujarati.
Multilingual.
Yeah.
That could be a real asset, especially thinking back to that multi-language platform they built at Food and VR.
Good point. Makes sense.
And then finally, we get to that additional information section again, the intriguing bit.
Yeah, passionate about writing poetry and exploring creative storytelling through technology.
It feels connected somehow to that Three.js exploration we talked about, doesn't it?
It really does. It adds this other layer, doesn't it? Beyond just the code and the projects.
It suggests maybe a creative inclination, perhaps a different way of thinking about problems or how users interact with things.
Yeah, seeing tech not just as a tool for, business logic, but potentially as a medium for expression or maybe even finding more creative solutions to technical problems.
Okay, so let's bring this all together. Looking back at the path we've traced in this deep dive, from that foundational API work to building complex user-facing systems, exploring creative 3D, what's the story that Mayor Parmar's resume tells for you, the listener?
Well, I mean, it definitely shows the rapid progression of a developer, someone who quickly built up experience in a really core modern web development stack.
Yeah, you see that move from contributing to internal tools and integrating existing systems.
Right, at that junior level.
To then leading front-end efforts and actually building complex platforms from the ground up.
Yeah.
Like that Photo and VR website and especially that custom CMS for the non-technical users.
Yeah, that CMS is a great example. It really highlights a journey that includes tackling real business challenges, right? Like system integration with the HubSpot API work.
Enhancing internal productivity with that task module.
And building robust, dynamic, public-facing websites. Plus, and I think this is important, they're actively exploring those, creative or cutting-edge areas like 3D web experiences.
Shows a drive for continuous learning. Experimentation beyond just the day job requirements.
I think so. It really emphasizes how that structured education combined with intense, practical, hands-on project work.
Focused on a consistent tech stack like the React Next Node Mongo combo.
Yeah, how that can lead to really significant skill development and the ability to deliver tangible products pretty quickly.
And then there's that unique blend we touched on. The technical achievements sitting alongside this passion for poetry and creative storytelling. That does make you wonder, doesn't it? As we sort of wrap up this deep dive, here's something for you to think about. Given that mention of creative storytelling and poetry right next to the technical skills, how might seemingly unrelated creative passions actually influence or even, enhance problem solving and innovation in a really technical field like software development?
What new perspectives could they bring? It's an interesting thought to leave things on.
And that was my resume, reimagined by an AI. Honestly, 10 out of 10 for drama, 8 out of 10 for fact check, and 100 out of 10 for making me sound way colder than I am actually. So, if you are bored, unemployed, or just dangerously curious, maybe you should give your resume to Gemini too. Who knows, maybe you will get Netflix series instead of podcast. Like if you laughed, and subscribe if your resume also has trauma.